Imagine objects effortlessly darting through space, the atmosphere, and even underwater, without visible propulsion. They defy the laws of physics, traveling at speeds no known technology can match. What if these weren't science fiction, but realities corroborated by data captured by multiple simultaneous sensors? For decades, UFOs were dismissed as jokes about little green men and tinfoil hats. But this ridicule wasn't accidental. It was an actionable recommendation of a 1950s US government advisory panel meant to help focus efforts during the Cold War. Evidently, it was enormously successful. The ridicule is over. The US government says these things are real. The question is, what are they? The subject is now the focus of major investigations by the New York Times, the BBC, and respected outlets like NPR and The Guardian, not exactly places for wild speculation. This episode isn't about convincing you, it's about bringing you up to speed. Join us as we confront the most profound question of our time. Let's dive in. The Manhattan Project had tens of thousands of people working on the development of the atomic bomb, one of the most significant technological leaps in human history, a historical parallel we may draw today. Yet, despite its scale, the project was shrouded in secrecy through strict compartmentalization. It wasn't until the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that the world learned of their existence. At the very same time, people began reporting unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, commonly referred to as UFOs. These sightings were successfully dismissed as myths or hoaxes, relegated to the fringes of credibility. That changed in 2017, when the New York Times published a front-page article revealing the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, which had a $22 million budget. AATIP's findings marked a turning point. Using radar data, infrared imagery, and first-hand military accounts, the program confirmed UAPs as real, physical objects exhibiting capabilities far beyond human technology. Luis Elizondo, who managed this program on behalf of the White House, testified under oath at a congressional hearing in November 2024.
For many years, I was entrusted with protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. UAP are real. Advanced technologies, not made by our government or any other government, are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies.
For those who think these phenomena could originate from China or Russia, Elizondo provided this clarification during a News Nation interview with Chris Cuomo.
Okay, we've been dealing with this for decades, and documents now have been submitted to Congress that prove without a shadow of a doubt, since the early 1950s, we've been dealing with this issue. And when I say dealing with this issue, I'm talking about objects that still to this day can operate beyond any type of performance characteristics of our modern aircrafts. I would say, look, if one were to say, well, maybe this is Russia or China today, okay, but that doesn't explain the 1950s and 60s, where these aircraft were captured on radar doing 10,000, 13,000 miles an hour. What we have in comparison, for example, the Lockheed YF-12A SR-71 can do about 3,200 miles an hour, and when it wants to take a right-hand turn, takes roughly half the state of Ohio to do that. And what we are seeing are objects that are doing 10,000, 13,000 miles an hour and are able to execute an immediate right-angle turn, do 180 degrees, pop in and out of our atmosphere, and even underwater. So where were we in the 1950s? Well, we had barely broken the sound barrier and hadn't even made it into space.
Luis Elizondo worked closely with Dr. James T. Lakatsky, a nuclear engineer with world-class expertise in fusion plasmas and directed energy weapons. Together, they oversaw the development of a comprehensive 494-page report detailing global UFO sightings dating back decades. They also compiled over 200,000 reports into 11 databases. These resources were designed to support in-depth studies of UAP phenomena, particularly their potential as technological threats or innovations. This data was submitted to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, established by the US government to investigate UAPs. Despite the extensive information, these datasets have not been incorporated into public analyses. However, in September 2023, Dr. Lakatsky publicly disclosed, with explicit authorization from the US government, that the United States possesses a craft of unknown origin and has successfully accessed its interior. When journalist Jeremy Corbell asked him to clarify, Dr. Lakatsky gave a simple one-word response.
You told us, because you were allowed to tell us, that our government has a UFO in its possession and has been able to access the inside of it, right?
Yes.
We know from the Pentagon's UAP task force and expert witness testimony that UAPs demonstrate astonishing capabilities, such as traveling multiple times the speed of sound and making abrupt right-angle turns. Imagine a car racing at full speed on a highway, suddenly turning at a perfect right angle without skidding, flipping, or losing momentum. It was Barack Obama who brought the seriousness of these findings to the public in an interview with James Corden.
What is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
Building on this foundational evidence, Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot, has come forward to say that these sightings are a common everyday experience that continues to this day.
But, we started seeing objects pretty much on a daily basis once we upgraded our radar systems to a more advanced system. We then correlated those with other systems on our jet, and eventually we saw them with our own eyeballs. They look like dark gray or black cubes inside of a clear sphere. And we were always hitting these objects.
Graves also noted the astonishing endurance of these objects, which appear to remain in the air far longer than any known human-made technology.
But when you learned it was doing it for, perhaps 13 hours.
The narrative has shifted from isolated incidents to a persistent phenomenon that challenges current aerospace defense capabilities and our understanding of physics. Just as 19th century scientists dismissed heavier-than-air flight, today's skeptics may find themselves challenged by evidence that reshapes our understanding of physics and technology. The Department of Defense described the risks posed by these phenomena. Unidentified aerial phenomena are real. Their presence in controlled airspace poses risks to flight safety and national security, and we are committed to addressing these phenomena with scientific rigor. The most compelling case was in 2004. The crew of the USS Princeton, including Senior Chief Radar Operator Kevin Day, reported seeing hundreds of UAPs on radar over a 2-week period. It was a clear afternoon when Commander David Fravor, who was in radio contact with Day, saw something that defied explanation: a white, oblong object hovering with impossible precision over the Pacific Ocean. Here he provides his extraordinary testimony under oath at the UAP congressional hearings.
My name is David Fravor. I'm a retired commander in the United States Navy. In 2004, I was a commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron 41, the world-famous Black Aces. The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space. Looked down a saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping-pong ball. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute."
What distinguishes the 2004 Nimitz incident is the convergence of multiple independent systems corroborating the event. The SPY-1 radar tracked the UAPs, while infrared cameras on Navy fighter jets visually and thermally confirmed their presence. Sitting alongside Fravor in his congressional testimony was David Grush, a distinguished U.S. intelligence officer specifically tasked with investigating UAPs. Over a 4-year period, he interviewed more than 40 individuals, including military personnel, scientists, and contractors.
Due to my extensive executive-level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
The Intelligence Inspector General has been informed. Grush's testimony painted a startling picture of hidden crash retrieval operations, secretive reverse engineering projects, and the recovery of biological materials described as non-human. Lou Elizondo confirmed the same thing 1 year later while being cross-examined under oath at the congressional hearing earlier this month.
We have possession of bodies.
Yes.
A common criticism is that videos of unidentified phenomena are always fuzzy or out of focus. However, according to Michael D. Schellenberger, a professor, author, and journalist who writes on topics such as free speech, homelessness, and the environment, this is not the case. During congressional testimony given under oath, Schellenberger stated that the US government possesses hundreds of high-definition videos. Here is his description of just one.
A roughly 13-minute long, high-definition, full-color video of a white orb UAP coming out of the ocean approximately 20 miles off the coast of Kuwait. It was filmed from a helicopter. Then halfway through the video, the person said the orb is joined by another orb that briefly comes into the frame from the left before rapidly moving again out of the frame. The person discovered the video on SIPR, the Secure Internet Protocol Router Network, which the DoD uses to transmit classified information.
So where does this leave us? We have multiple credible sources confirming the existence of a UAP crash retrieval program. These individuals who are in positions to know have provided evidence of records showing craft performing maneuvers that defy current physics. These records go back 70 years. High-level intelligence officials have also confirmed the recovery of non-human bodies. We have scientists who have worked with UAP programs who have been given permission to state the US government has accessed the interiors of a retrieved craft. We have testimony under oath and hundreds of high-quality UAP videos. David Grush's evidence, when presented, was deemed both urgent and credible by the Intelligence Community Inspector General. These terms underscore the gravity of the claims, suggesting that the evidence is reliable and demands immediate attention. Historical precedents, such as the Manhattan Project, demonstrate the government's ability to maintain secrecy over advanced technologies, adding plausibility to such programs. Finally, as we noted earlier, a highly successful campaign of ridicule has long been used to suppress public and scientific discourse on these issues. The weight of this evidence and testimony demands transparency and thorough investigation. If high-level officials with access to sensitive information are calling for action, it is imperative that these claims be addressed openly and responsibly, moving beyond the historical patterns of secrecy and dismissal. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Deeper Thinking podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explored these fascinating and thought-provoking topics. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to dive deep into the questions that shape our understanding of the world. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep thinking deeper.